Previously on Behind the Dumb.
Wait a second, my mouth movement isn't synchronized to my voice. This can only mean one thing. Ninja attack! Oh, it turns out they were just right in front of me the whole time. Okay, well, welcome to the show. I had an epiphany, and I discovered that there's only one true way to make games. At least only one smart way, and that's in Flash. Now, why do I say that? Well, a Flash game runs anywhere. PC, Mac, Linux, you write it once, it runs everywhere. Anyone can run. The other huge advantage is that the game runs right there in your web browser. Nobody has to download it, they don't have to figure out how to download it, and for you who are laughing at that statement, believe me, people do not know how to download games. They don't have to install it, they don't have to worry about it sitting on their system, it's right there in the web browser. It's perfect. The only downside? I have no idea how to develop Flash games. So I have this book right here, the ActionScript 3.0 Cookbook, which is pretty good. And I've ordered another book about making games in Flash because, well, I'm making a game in Flash. So between those two books, whatever's in here, and the internet, we're going to work together and we're going to create my first ever Flash game. Every day I like to go for a walk and think about the different things that I'm going to have to do that day during my development time. It's good for me, it's good for my heart, for my legs, it's good for my brain to work these things out. It's bad for you, because when I film it, it looks like something out of the Blair Witch Project. They kicked the map into the river. So, let's just assume that I've gone for this walk that I'm talking about, and then I'll tell you about the kinds of things I figured out later on. Psst. Hey, you. Have you ever wondered what happens
when changes attack?
Go forth, my knight, and hit him for 5 damage.
Huh. You know, knights seem weak. I'm gonna raise their damage to 6.
Oh man, you just did 6 damage to me!
Excellent work, my knight. You did 5 damage.
Huh. It looks like we've got 2 different people seeing 2 different numbers for the exact same thing. So what are we going to do about that? Now we're going to have each game store a copy of all the units and abilities when it first starts, so it has something to reference.
Get him, knight!
Well, I still need to change knights to 6 damage, but it's not going to affect the current game. Hey, I only took 5 damage. Hey, that's alright.
Ah, sweet destruction!
Well, it looks like that solved the problem. It also solves another problem with players leveling up in the middle of a match and changing their abilities that way. Welcome to the other side of my office. It's where my old computer is set up, which I've had to keep around because 3D Studio won't run on my new computer, which is Vista. I'd have to update 3D Studio, and that's more money than you can even imagine. So this is where I do my graphics. Right now I'm looking at a bunch of old graphics from Looneyland 2 because this is a Looneyland game. I'm going to be able to reuse those 3D models in this game, which is very handy and convenient. Each of the armies in the game hails from one of these little countries here on the continent of Looneyland. The first army that I'm going to be adding to the game comes from right here, the Forbidden Forest. Now, who do you think that might be? Because it's not who you think it is. Prepare yourself to meet
The Order of the Snuggly Bunny.
The Order of the Snuggly Bunny was formed many years ago by the King of Looneyland, whose name I do not know. He made the unfortunate choice of having his daughter, the princess, who was about 4 or 5 years old at the time, come up with the name for the order. Hence, the Order of the Snuggly Bunny. But if you wonder why they wear bunny costumes like this, that has nothing to do with the name or his daughter. That's actually the invention of their leader, Captain Capitan, who just happens to think that looks nice. When you play as the Order of the Snuggly Bunny, you're actually playing as Captain Capitan. Each army has a specific leader like that. They're not an actual unit in the game, but you're leveling them up to increase the power of the different units that you have. It's still really early in the design phase, but I can tell you what I plan to have in the Order of the Snuggly Bunny. There are Order Knights, the guys with the big axes, catapults for artillery support, bunny riders, which are the cavalry, archers, which I don't have a clever name for, and some sort of priest or medic type unit that would heal the other units. Then there's one last unit that I think the Snuggly Bunnies are going to have, which is called a blind spearman, which is exactly what it sounds like, a spearman who cannot see. Why would you have such a man? You're going to find out when you play the game.
Emails!
Oh, hi there. You've caught me here at my weekend retreat, just checking up on a few emails. Let's see what we've got. This one comes from DB Ace 9 Aura, and he's asking if I read his suggestion on the forum for a unit in Looneyland Tactics called the Priest. First of all, the answer is yes. I read every single post on the forums, and you can imagine how tremendously enjoyable I find that experience. Nonetheless, I did read the unit suggestion thread, and what he suggested was the priest unit, which every faction would have their own priest, which would have different abilities depending on the faction. And he says the universally shared abilities would involve healing and converting units to your side. He wants to know if I'm putting that in the game. And the answer is not really. As I mentioned earlier in the show, the Order of the Snuggly Bunny will definitely have a priest unit. I think that fits in with them perfectly. But I want to have more distinction between the different sides than to have each one have their own specific priest. So some sides just won't have the ability to heal at all. Others might be really focused on it and almost impossible to kill. Who knows? We're going to find out. Now, if you have a question or a comment or just want to be obnoxious, send me an email. The address is right here, strangely, in the upper corner this time. It changes. Well, that'll do it for this week's show. But, before we go, I have a little confession I have to make. You see, I hate to say this, but I'm not really who you think I am. In fact, the truth is, so